Okay, thank you for watching this video on VAT, as I'm sure you'd rather be watching the footy or Netflix on TV. So here we are. So the question is, what is the VAT reverse charge for construction services all about? Well, HMRC have introduced this change to the VAT within the construction industry to stop fraud. That's why they're introducing this, to stop fraud. So if you're not registered for VAT, you're not a subcontractor, and you're not a contractor and work within CIS, then you might as well go back to the footy or Netflix. So here we are. Okay, so if you are registered for VAT and you are a subcontractor or a contractor and you work within the CIS, then it's important that you watch the contents of this video. So from the 1st of March 2021, the VAT domestic reverse charge for construction comes into force. These changes will affect all those that are either a subcontractor, a contractor, you work within CIS and you are registered for VAT. So what are the changes, I hear you ask? So let's assume there are three parties. You've got the subcontractor, you've got the contractor and you've got the end user. The end user could be, say, a home owner, residential person. So you've got three parties here. So if a subcontractor raises a sales invoice to the contractor, if they are not an end user, then the contractor must let the subcontractor know that they are not the end user and that the domestic reverse charge then comes into play. So this is very important. So if the subcontractor is going to invoice the contractor and the services and materials that are being charged, the contractor is not the end user, the contractor must let the subcontractor know, and if that's the case, then the reverse charge then comes into place. So the subcontractor then, when he raises a sales invoice to the contractor, he then raises an invoice without VAT, but he declares on the invoice that it is a reverse charge invoice. So he's got to declare it's a reverse charge invoice. He must show that on his invoice. And also it's important on the invoice that he uses the following terminology. It says customer to account to HMRC for the reverse charge in output tax. So it's customer to account to HMRC for the reverse charge output tax. So basically, so let's say for an example that a brickie, let's say we've got a brickie and he issues an invoice. Okay, so let's say he's going to charge the contractor £100. So under the old rules, be £100. Okay, he would also then added VAT at £20. That's the old rules. Okay, so therefore the contractor would have given the subcontractor £120. So under the new rules, still the £100, but the VAT is now 0. So that means that the contractor, instead of paying in £120, he now pays only £100 under the new rules. If the subcontractor only works for a contractor where the reverse charge applies, then they could find that they are in a repayment situation each quarter. Because under the new rules they wouldn't be charging any VAT. So if they're not charging any VAT, when they come to doing their VAT returns, then on their VAT return they will be showing no VAT if they only were working under the new rules. Okay? So when the subcontractor completes their VAT returns, they must not enter any VAT in box 1. So at the moment this VAT would go into box 1, and here is box 1. So under the new rules, no VAT goes into box 1. Okay, so they must, however, put the value of the sales in box 6. So the value of the sales would still go into box 6 on the VAT return. So this is actually on the VAT return. So although you show your sales, here in fact you're going to pay no VAT, but you still put your sales into box 6. So in the example of Bricky here, they would put 0 into box 1 and they will put £100 into box 6 as their output sales. The subcontractor will not be paid VAT for reverse charge invoices. So the contractor will not pay any VAT to the subcontractor under this reverse charge ruling. Okay, so no VAT gets paid to the subcontractor. So if you are a contractor and not the end user for the goods and services provided for the subcontractor, then you must inform the subcontractor that you are not the end user and that the reverse charge applies. When the contractor receives the subby's invoice, so when the contractor receives the invoice, they will only pay the net amount and not the gross amount. Okay. Now if the subcontractor is within CIS, and let's say he's at standard rate, then in this situation with Bricky, he gets CIS at 20%, 20 pounds comes off. So in this situation, under the new rules, where his invoice is at £100, he charges no VAT, he has £20 deducted for CIS, and he ends up being paid £80. Okay, when it comes to completing the VAT return, then the contractor must enter the reverse charge VAT in box 1 on the VAT return. No value is entered into box 6. So for the contractor, but when he completes his returns, the VAT that he would have paid to the subcontractor is not paid to the subcontractor, but when he comes to fill out his VAT returns, he must show his VAT that he would have paid into box 1, but he also claims it in box 4, okay, like he would have normally done. Okay, so let's just to recap, where the contractor would have paid the VAT to the subby, so in this case the £20 would have gone to the subcontractor. In fact, what it does do is that the contractor then pays the £20 VAT basically to HMRC. So instead of paying the £20 to the subcontractor, it goes directly to HMRC through the VAT returns. So please note that if you charge a home or domestic user that is not registered for VAT, then normal rules apply. So if you're a subcontractor, electrician, plumber, whatever, if you charge the end user directly, then normal rules apply. The reverse charge doesn't apply. It's only when you're charging somebody who's not the end user that this situation applies. If you going to charge a homeowner or somebody who's a residential user, or even somebody who's related or deals with the property, so that could be a tenant or a landlord, then normal rules, normal VAT rules will then apply. So what construction services are exempt from the reverse charge? So who doesn't it come under? So there are a host of CIS services that do not fall within this new rule. They are drilling for oil, gas, extraction of minerals, manufacture of components for systems for heating, lighting, air conditioning, ventilation, professional work for architects, surveyors, consultants in building and engineering and landscaping, making and installation of artworks, sign writing, advertisement boards, seating, blinds, shutters, and the installation of security systems. So, how will this affect your business? So for subcontractors, this may have a significant effect on your cash flow, as they will not receive the VAT on their sales. So where the subcontractor would have been getting his VAT for, say, a period of a quarter, he'd been getting that VAT money, puts it in his bank, and he probably uses it during that quarter. He's not going to get that anymore. So you just need to be aware that you're not going to have that money to rely on during that quarter. They will also need to change the way they issue sales invoices, and they need to make sure that they complete their VAT returns correctly. So if any invoices you raise on the domestic reverse charge, again, you need to make sure you don't put any VAT on those invoices into box 1 on the VAT returns. For contractors, they must make sure they inform all subcontractors that they are not end users where it applies. Make sure that they don't pay the VAT on those invoices to the subcontractors, and to include in box 1 on their VAT returns what the subcontractor has said is on their invoice. So when the subcontractor issues his invoice, he has to stipulate what the VAT would have been, and therefore it's that amount that the contractor then puts into box 1 on his VAT return. It can help the cash flow for the contractor, because where he would have been paying the subcontractor every week or every month the VAT, he's now only going to be paying it once a quarter to HMRC. So, will the reverse charge affect making tax digital for VAT? So the simple answer to that is no. It doesn't make any effect. MTD only relates to the way we submit our VAT returns and how we store the data. So you still need to complete the VAT returns in the usual way. You still need to store your data digitally, and you need to keep the details of the reverse charges digitally along with all the other VAT entries. So how will the new rules affect those on the flat rate scheme? So this is going to affect those quite significantly. Sales made under the reverse charge rules are excluded from the VAT flat rate scheme. If you haven't charged any VAT, then you can't pay any VAT to HMRC. So therefore, when you come to completing your VAT return and you are on the flat rate scheme, your total gross sales is going to be 0. Okay, so that means that your turnover is going to be reduced because 0 sales, because it's whatever you invoice on the reverse charge is not included in your VAT return if you're on flat rate. So if we take the case of Bricky, okay, so his gross sales for under the flat rate scheme would have been £120. Under the new rules, it's actually 0. So where Bricky would have been able to have claimed VAT on his purchases because of the flat rate scheme, he's actually going to get nothing back, although he's going to be incurring VAT on his materials and his overheads. So therefore the benefit of the flat rate scheme will be significantly reduced. So a business could find itself with sales in that quarter that could be where there's no sales, but he's actually incurring VAT. He could actually end up having a shortfall in his cash flow because he's paying out VAT and getting nothing back. So therefore those businesses that are on the flat rate scheme need to reassess if it's worth staying in the flat rate scheme. So if you have any questions on any of this, please feel free to contact us on 0208 540 2030 or send us an email on contact@sem-accountancy.co.uk. Thank you.